Phil X, man. I hope you're having an awesome day, and if you're not, I'm gonna make it better.
Yes, you are correct. I am not Phil X. I am the furthest thing from a Phil X. I wish I were Phil X. I wish I had an ounce of this guy's talent. He's a smoking guitar player. I also wish I had his $400,000 Les Paul that he's been talking about getting on this FrettedAmericana. Seriously, Phil, a $400,000 guitar? Do me a favor, when you're done with the first pack of strings, just send me the high, or I live local, I'll come get it. I just want the high E string, just to say I had something that touched an amazing guitar like that. Anyway, if anybody deserves a guitar like this, it's this guy. Phil X is an amazing guitar player, really talented, and we've had a lot of requests the last 2 or 3 months to do lessons on his stuff. And by the way, I'm Dave from GuitarBreakdown.com, and I am slightly less talented than Phil X, but I will try and do him justice in this lesson. Like I said, we've had a lot of requests to do a lesson on his stuff, and I've had a hard time finding something to actually break down and do a lesson. Not because there's a lack of stuff out there. There's a ton of stuff. It's a style of playing that I'm not really familiar with anymore. I used to do a lot of Paul Gilbert, Racer X, Jason Becker, Van Halen, all the 80s kind of stuff. But if you're familiar with the lessons that I do on GuitarBreakdown.com, for the most part, they lean really heavily towards the jazz fusion stuff, which it's just two different styles, two different techniques. And as far as like alternate picking and stuff, I don't do a lot of that anymore. So this was definitely a challenge for me to relearn some of this kind of stuff. And I hope I did it justice. I know I messed up the performance a little bit, but whatever, it is what it is. So, and Phil he's so talented. He does a lot of like gear kind of guitar demos for FrettedAmericana. They sell this high-end guitars and stuff. And in those performances, he does them like every so often, every few weeks. And he just recalls all this 80s, 70s music. And he's got a library. He reminds me a lot of Paul Gilbert, actually, in that way. Not so much in his playing style, but in the way that Paul used to do clinics all the time. And he'd do like Name That Tune. So you blurt out a song and you couldn't stump him. It stumped the band, I guess. And so Phil reminds me of that because in all these videos he's playing all this cool 70s and 80s rock, and he just seems to have like an endless library of this music. Anyway, if you're not familiar with Phil X, Google him, or in YouTube type in his stuff. You'll probably come across a FrettedAmericana video because he does a ton of them. And super talented, amazing, funny guy. Seems like a really nice guy. In fact, I saw a video recently. You get this impression that he's just this crazy wild dude, and he did a video talking about guitar tone and all that kind of stuff, and he's got such an amazing knowledge of music, and he actually came across as just a super normal, awesome dude. Anyway, enough of that kind of stuff. So we're going to do a lesson on, it's kind of like a short 12-bar blues kind of thing. And it's very straightforward. It's actually very much A minor, A major pentatonic, but the way he plays it, it doesn't sound like that. His technique's awesome. He's playing through pretty much a clean tone amp, and it's actually really hard for me, at least, to do a lot of what he's doing because his technique's so clean, and without hiding behind distortion or something to get the licks that he's doing, it's just really challenging. So don't get frustrated with this. Take it slow it down with a metronome, and just work it up. And I hope you guys enjoy this. Again, all those requests, I hope this is kind of what you were looking for in his style of playing. If there's any other requests, just let us know and give us a specific video or something, and we'll try and get to something more along the lines you're looking for. But I think this was what everybody was getting at. So again, I hope you enjoy this, and I will get to the lesson right after this. Alright guys, so let's get to the lesson portion of this video. I don't know if I mentioned before, but if you click the link below, it will bring you to the video that I'm doing this lesson on. It's a pretty long video. I think it's like maybe, I don't know, it's like 10 minutes and 20 seconds into the video. I'll put the time code down there too, where he actually does this little solo. It's a pretty straightforward blues kind of 12-bar blues thing that is in the key of A, and the chords are basically A7 to a D7, and then an E7. And that's it. It's pretty straightforward. Anyway, so he starts out this whole thing with sliding up to the A note on the G string on the 14th fret, and then he plays the 13th fret, and that's the 14th fret of the G string to the 13th fret of the B string, and he plays that note twice. So it's. And then he does. He goes from there to this lick that was actually the first of several licks that I had a hard time with because it's all alternate picking. It's on essentially a clean tone amp, and it's at a pretty fast pace. So my advice is to just take this slow, work it out with a metronome, and just keep working on it slowly, and I'll show you how to do that or whatever. And then eventually you'll kind of get it up to tempo. So it starts out with the 13th to 14th fret on the B string to the 17th fret on the E string. Then it does the 13, 14 again on the B string to the 17th fret on the B string. So he's just pivoting off of these two notes. And in between he plays this. So it's. Then the next part he goes down to the G string and does a similar thing where he plays the 12th fret to the 14th fret on the G string. Then the 17th fret on the B string. Then again he repeats that 12, 14 on the G string and 17 on the G string. So he's pivoting these two notes now. So it's. Then he goes down to the D string and plays the 13th fret and 14th fret. Skips the G string, plays the B string, 13th fret, and he bends that up almost a half step. So that's minor third to major third. And then it's not quite to that major third before he goes down the 14th fret on both the G string and the G string and the D string. And that last note you barely hear. It just, again, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but he gets it in there. So. And then he bends up that 17th fret on the B string a whole step. So that whole lick is. Now, that whole first section is, there's a lot of palm muting in it, so it's. So it's not. You're not hearing all those notes. It's. And again, the best thing I think to do is to work on that slowly with a metronome and just do. And then eventually you'll get it up to tempo, at least close to it. So now, after he bends that note up the whole step, he plays that 17th fret again on the B string. Then he bends the 16th fret of the G string up a half step. Then he plays the 14th fret on the G string, 16th fret of the G string, 16th fret of the D string, so he kind of rolls back down. And then he plays the 14th fret again. He ends on that A note, 14th fret of the G string with vibrato. So that's. So that whole thing is. Now, I just want to break down a little bit real quick of what's going on there, because this may look foreign to some folks. It did to me, kind of. There's two ways to kind of visualize this. Out of this minor pentatonic, But I think an easier way to look at it would be if most people are familiar with this first box position of A minor pentatonic. And if you bring that up an octave to the 17th fret, you get that. Now if you analyze what's going on here with this position, if this is kind of this is the way I saw it, it was more familiar in this area. So it's basically the minor third to major third, which is the 17th to 18th fret on the G string, and then the root, which is the A note on the E string. Then again, it repeats that, and then it goes to that E note on the B string. So then it does the 17th fret to the 19th fret on the D string to the 17th fret again of the B string and the G string. So this is the same as this, but they sound two different ways because the thickness of the strings and all that kind of stuff. Plus it's a little easier to play the way he's doing it because skipping strings and then rolling down a string is a little more difficult. And then that last part where he does is just, which is the flat 5 to the 5, which is the 18th fret to 19th fret on the A string, to the minor third on the G string. So it's then he rolls down the 19th fret of the D and A string. Well, that's if he was doing it in this position. And I'm just trying to show you that you can play things in a bunch of different ways, and that's how I go about when I analyze these things or I transcribe them. I don't always end up, there's usually not a video to correspond with this. And in fact, in this video, it cuts away from him and goes to the other guitar player. So there are certain sections where I don't know exactly how he's playing this or fingering it. So I just try it out in a bunch of different ways, and whatever's most comfortable for me works.